Hey guys, welcome back to another video. It's the big one. The Manchester derby is back, and it's City United at Old Trafford. Actually, it's away. It's going to be a whole lot of fun, potentially for one of us anyway, not for everyone. And of course, I had to get the views of a top red, Motty from Stretford Paddock. Jay, how you doing, my friend? You good?
I'm all right, man. I don't know what I'm doing another video with you for. Last time I did one with you was before the FA Cup final when I was full of bravado. And we all know how that ended. 10 seconds that lasted.
I should have come back to that video actually and just pull you all over Twitter and stuff, but I didn't because I think I was too busy enjoying it, which is wild. You know, I should have been more online, but I wasn't, which is crazy.
I was sucker for punishment.
I actually was sat with two of your fellow Stretford Paddockers, Adam McCullough and Joe, the other day doing the episode of Off the Bar, and it turned out it was an hour podcast, and he was sort of just asking the question about City, but it turned out to just sort of mild therapy session for Adam and Joe. Really, I know they were just, it was pre-Copenhagen as well, which probably hasn't really helped the mood, even though you won. It was a weird game, and it felt like the mood was a bit odd for United fans. He's just McCullough just lusting over Jack Grealish, if I'm being honest. He just loves Jack Grealish. And I was like,
I'll tell you what, his heart was broken when Jack Grealish. I don't think Macca will mind me saying this because he's obvious.
No, I bet it was obvious as anything.
He refused to believe it when you did that video announcing him. He was still not having it. It was like, you don't know, he might end up at United. Yeah, he's a big Jack Grealish fan.
Honestly, he was just staring wistfully out the window of the Deansgate pub. I was thinking, are you thinking of Jack Grealish? And at one point, your Jack Grealish, that celebration, mate, that was 10 yards away down the road on the Deansgate. But he was very, very unhappy about it. But he had one player to choose. And out of all the players for City, he chose Grealish, like not Rodri, not Haaland or anyone. But no. Anyway.
It's the Brummy connection, you know.
It is, isn't it? It is.
Brummies, come on.
Yeah, it is. He's a very likeable man, to be fair. And he would do well at United. But he's ours. And he was great last night for City as we recorded this. So where do you sit with the United season, mate? It's been a really strange one so far. A strange one is probably just a nice word for pretty poor. It's been how do you feel about it all?
It's been a bit disappointing, to be honest with you. The season last season, I thought, despite the FA Cup final and 1 or 2 away results that we don't need to go into, I'm sure we're all aware, it was a good season for United. To finish third and win a trophy was a good season. If you'd have asked me at the beginning of the season, what would be a good season for you, I'd have said top 4 and a trophy, and we did that. So I'm not going to pretend that wasn't a successful season. It was, especially when you look at the mess Ten Hag inherited. The trouble is, you want to kick on from that, you want to build on that, and you want to have a better season in your second season. And so far, it hasn't been the case. Some of the performances have been lackluster. I do feel you can't ignore some of the injuries we've had. I mean, we've lost big players. Martinez is a big player for us. Luke Shaw's a big player for us, and to lose them both for quite a long term as well has been pretty devastating. Plus, we had all the issues with midfield. We've had a bit of a merry-go-round there, and in defence in general. So there have been sort of unforeseen circumstances you've got to deal with. My main worry is just almost like a lack of style, a lack of what we're trying to do. You mentioned that Copenhagen game, and you know me, Macca, like if you say, "Oh, you must be feeling despondent," I'll stand my ground. I'll stick up for my team, but after that Copenhagen game, despite the fact of the win, you're right. There was a lot of things that I was looking at going. I was at the game and we were stood in the ground, and a lot of us were saying the same thing. If we play like this against City, we're going to be in all sorts of trouble because it wasn't a great performance. It got better, but you have to look at the opposition and the sort of the problems we had. I'm just hoping that with Casemiro coming back and with Reguilon getting a few more minutes, I'm expecting him to kick on a little bit for next week, that we can do something. But I'm not too optimistic going into this one. And I'm usually optimistic at Old Trafford, especially under Ten Hag, despite this season. Last season, our record at Old Trafford was very good. But this season, we've just not got going. And, we're almost in November now. It's a bit late to start getting going. We should have been much better than we are. So, I'm really worried about this one.
Well, I'm not going to try and give you any hope because I hate to do that. But, we didn't get going until January last year and it turned out all right, to be fair. So you never know. Having said that, I think Pep probably is a big part of that, in being honest. Well, Ten Hag is a weird one because I think everyone expected when he came, Ajax, this sort of links to Pep and all that kind of stuff. You're going to be playing this possession football. It's going to be free flowing. It's going to be intricate and all this kind of stuff. And it does feel like the football is just... Yeah, it's the identity thing which has struck me because it doesn't help, I guess, the fact that you got someone like Postecoglou in the Premier League who's come in and immediately changed the way Spurs play and immediately made them this, creative, possession-based attacking team. And you see examples of what, the turnaround Emery's done at, like Aston Villa, or even what 𝙏𝙬𝙨𝙯 done at Brighton, where he's got players with a lot less pedigree than Manchester United squad, playing some of the best football in Europe. And it must feel a little bit like it was confusing for me, even being honest. Looking from the outside in, obviously I'm biased, can't deny that. But I just thought you'd be playing more of an obvious style, and it feels like the football hasn't really changed for a long time at United. It feels very like, doesn't matter who's in charge. There's obviously slight elements different, but it doesn't matter who's in charge or whatever. It sort of always just feels like sort of it's been there, done that, seen it kind of thing for the past several years now. Like, obviously not, that's a bit reductive, but yeah, are you surprised by the lack of a really obvious style that hasn't emerged yet?
A little bit. Like I said, I'm not going to, just to disagree for the sake of arguing, because I do think you make a valid point. Like the Postecoglou one or the De Zerbi one more, because I think with Postecoglou they've been successful, but everyone, Ole Gunnar Solskjaer had a fantastic first 10 games, and it's like sometimes you have that and an impact, and it's everyone goes, "Oh, this is amazing! Look what he's done," and then things can go wrong very quickly, especially in the Premier League. You can get found out. So the Postecoglou one, I think, is a bit premature from a lot of people.
Yeah,
they're all saying it. But I think De Zerbi is a good one, because you've seen that over a little bit of an extended period of time, and you make a good point about the players not being at the level of United. If you were to be brutally honest, how many of their 11 get into our 11? And yet, look at the result they had against us and how they're playing. So it is a bit frustrating. And I think last season, I felt there was a practicality that came in. You looked to those first two games where you could see what he was trying to do, and it was pretty disastrous, the Brighton and the Brentford game last season. So he changed it a little bit, got results against Liverpool and one or two other, Arsenal as well, Old Trafford. Yeah. And then you thought, okay, he's being very sort of pragmatic here. He's getting results. He's delivered a trophy early doors, which helps, because that just sort of lifts the spirits, alleviates the pressure. Obviously sitting over the Carabao better than anyone. That sort of it sets you on a good sort of setting for the season.
Yeah.
This season, you think, okay, now we can try and develop. You can bring in the goalkeeper who plays out from the back that you've always wanted, one or two other players, and it's not really happened. And I just feel like at United now, I rate Tanaka. I think he's a very good manager, and I think he's the right man for the job. But it just feels like it's a bit of a mess at the minute. It really does. And this is the sort of the flip side to the City game, in the sense that I'm not confident at all, but there's no better way to get your season going and to get confidence high and to get everyone thinking, right, okay, it's almost like, let's ignore everything that's happened before this game. If we get a result, the place will be buzzing. And I know it's a massive if, but it's a great opportunity for him to do that, because I think people will just suddenly start changing the narrative. It will be that kind of game where people stop going, oh, well, it's a disaster. It's like, all of a sudden, you've won 4 in a row, you're 3 points behind City, whatever. Oh, actually, things aren't that bad. But again, it's a massive if, so I'm not sort of pretending that's likely to happen. It's just, this is the opportunity he's got to try and take.
No, yes, right. I mean, obviously, there's logic, and there's the sort of like the head and the heart kind of thing, and like the head says City probably will win this, but the heart, football's football, and like it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter how well you're doing in a derby, especially United. Like, as much as United struggling, they're still they're not like this terrible team down the bottom. They're not like Luton or down at the bottom. Like, they still got quality, and I fancy my team obviously, but I'm still thinking. The one area we've been susceptible this season is probably we've barely kept a clean sheet all season, which is genuinely true. And like even last night against Boys, we conceded a counter where we're just open, and United are a very good counter-attacking team on their day. You got the pace of Rashford in behind. Garnacho kind of thrives in these kind of games as well sometimes, and obviously Fernandes he's got the final pass and the finish as well. That to me feels like United's best chance here. Using Old Trafford, using the directness that you're pretty good at every now and then, and just sort of trying to capitalise on the City being a little bit shaky defensively so far this season. Are you expecting United to play in that kind of way, just look on the counter, or maybe could be a bit more front-footed?
I think, again, someone goes back to that pragmatism I mentioned last season. I think counter-attacking is our best option. And listen, let's be honest. If we won the game playing counter-attacking football, I'm not going to care. I'm not going to go, well, we only won it. When we got those results under Ollie at the Etihad, which was just pure counter-attacking, as a United fan, I couldn't care less. I was buzzing we got the win. Yeah, so I understand that there'll be an element of, well, it's a home game. We should take the game to City and we should be front foot. But you have to be practical about it and look at how we've been struggling and the quality that you guys have got. And obviously, even a City team not firing on all cylinders is probably the best in the league anyway. So I feel like counter-attacking is our best option. I feel we have got players that can hurt you on the break. I know Rashford's not really got going this season, ditto Bruno, but it's that whole thing. You said it earlier. On their day, they can damage any team, any defence, get goals against anyone. So if we are going to have a real chance of winning, I think counter-attacking might be our best option. And I think perhaps the kind of manager who'll come to United and you have that confidence because the results he's had in the past there and the way you've played against in the past to bring the game to us. Don't think he's going to sort of, sit back where I can see City trying to get ours. My only worry is with counter-attacking and if you're getting ours, if we concede early, especially this team under Erik ten Hag, we have this sort of trait of sometimes falling apart or just, for having mad sort of 10, 15 minutes where before you know it, it's 2 or 3. We can't afford to do that if we concede
or 4
early.
or 5, you never know.
Yeah, exactly. We could go on. But if we can sort of stop City scoring and hit them on the break and get that goal, then that could make a massive difference because we saw it, you remember, a few years ago, just before lockdown. We got the goal from 𝙤𝙨𝙬𝙚. You guys were attacking. And then obviously McTominay gets that second. We regain possession and we get the goal when you guys are sort of Edison. I know it's a bit of a mistake from Edison, but you guys are obviously going for the equaliser because that's what you're going to try and do. So I think that might be our best option. And it's one of those games where, listen, a win is a win. It's a derby. I don't care if it was a dodgy VAR disputed.
Oh, it's a good job, mate. You might be in luck, based on other things we've seen in the past. So.
Oh, mate, don't get me started on VAR. I think we can both agree that's been an absolute nightmare. But I'd be happy if I'd be happy if it was any kind of win. We just, a win could really do a lot for us this season.
I know he's not played well so far this season, Rashford, really, but the one thing I do admire sort of like Rashford's a United fan. It does mean something to him. That does mean something to him, and he's always been pretty decent in derbies. You can tell that it does actually mean a little bit to him. And of course, he sort of broke out in a derby when he retired _𝙏𝙬𝙚𝙀 all those years ago. And it's one of those things where I do. He is probably what best City fans. He'd be the one they consider the threat, just because I know it does mean something for him. I think he's probably aware of his own form and so on, and he does have that quality. I know how much you love Combined 11, so let's get into... No, I'm joking, mate.
That'd be a very short discussion. I take no pleasure in this, right? United fans might be sitting here going, Jay, you're being too nice, being too kind. But let's be honest here.
Well,
a Combined 11 would be very lopsided, so I'm glad we're not doing that.
No, we were joking before. I know we both can't stand them, and I don't look. We'll leave the ritual humiliation to Old Trafford, mate. That'll do for Look, I'm not usually this confident, so I don't know. I'm going to regret this already. But I think it's one of those things where, I don't know. I think this is. It's just what I watched it. I only saw a bit of the Kompany game, but I saw the Sheffield United game as well. I was just doing the dishes. I was watching that, and I was there thinking, oh God, Sheffield United aren't very good, and I know you won in the end, but it's one of those things where I was like, looked a bit. It feels like if City do turn up, and we're lucky because we rested quite a few players last night as well, Vardy, Stones, Foden, a couple more, Alvarez and so on. They all got a rest, and Kyle Walker as well. It's one of those things where I do feel really confident because I feel like Rodri back as well. Obviously, players rested. A few poor results recently, other than the last 2 games which we won again. I feel like this is something for these City players to prove a tiny bit because, for example, Adam McCall and Joe, they were asking me about City's start to the season, which felt a little bit like, well, it's not been that bad, mate. But it's one of those things where people are going about City like you definitely dropped off about Rodri, and I think there's an element of we've got a little bit to prove as well this season so far. We shouldn't because we're treble winners, but So I think it's going to be an interesting game, man. How do you think you're going to line up, by the way, with injuries and so on? What are you expecting to see?
I think Casemiro will be back in. I think he was suspended for the Copenhagen game, but he was in training. So I think he's going to go for a double defensive pivot. Yeah. And I wouldn't be surprised if Sofyan Amrabat starts alongside him in midfield because I think that he's probably the best we've got in that sort of defensive role other than Casemiro. I think that somebody's not really suited to it. Bruno's not really suited to it. So I expect those two to...
McTominay,
you got to play. Yeah. That's. Oh, sorry, McTominay. Yeah,
Ronaldo.
Than it does about the McTominay as well. But I feel like, I think Casemiro and Amrabat, Maguire will keep his place because Martinez is out and Maguire's done well these last few games, which is a different story and a little bit of a worry against someone like Erling Haaland, obviously. But there is no other option, really. I think it's a Lindelof, which isn't great either. So I just feel that those two are going to be pivotal, pardon the pun. Also, I do expect him to play Rashford and Antony I do think Bruno will play a little bit further forward, especially when we've got the ball.
Yeah.
And then, without a doubt, Rasmus Højlund leading the line. And it will be one of those games where we do have to soak up a bit of pressure, and we just try and hit you on the break and just try and get the likes of Rashford and Antony on the ball. And you mentioned Garnacho as well earlier. And I think one of the sad things for me about the derby at Old Trafford last season was, in all the talk and furore over the goal, the first United goal, the performance of Alejandro Garnacho got ignored. The kid came on.
He was great.
And was for 15 minutes was fantastic. An 18-year-old coming into a derby against that City team and doing what he did. And everyone just sort of ignored it. And it was really...
FA Cup final team, man. FA Cup final. He was the best player on the pitch when he came on for you.
Yeah, like, he's it's so difficult to do that.
Yeah, he revelled in it. He revelled in it. You can tell. Yeah, he meant something to him when he revelled in it. And he, like, I know he's not quite kicked on so far this season yet, but there's so much natural talent there. And, you know, I feel like he does actually enjoy those kind of games. I think he does, and some people do, don't they? You know, they sort of crave that spotlight, and not in a bad way, just in general. It's just who they are.
No,
and I think Garnacho's got a bit of that. Yeah, he's got a bit of that about him. So like, I do think he was like, when the FA Cup final, I know we're winning, but like when he came on, he definitely made a difference. And I was saying, oh God, he's a threat. And Matoma got a bit of joy out of Kyle Walker recently as well. Not many people do that, and Garnacho's got a little bit of that as well to his game. You know, incredible footwork, bit burst of pace. So he might fancy his chances if he gets on. Yeah, I do think you're right. I mean, the thing is about Højlund is that I think he's like one game away from that Sancho meme of 007. So that makes me feel like, yeah, he's like, no,
can we not count the Champions League game? Is that
in the league? I don't like. I saw that on
meme.
Twitter, but I think we're conceding goals. I think he's probably going to score. I do honestly believe that. I think he'll probably get his first goal. I just don't. I'm obviously confident in the team, but it's going to be an interesting game. What's your head and heart saying in terms of predictions? I always like to do a head and heart one, mate. It's like,
my heart says we can get a result. I mean, I'm going to be there. Obviously, it's going to be packed out, with the script with the derby. Plus, there's the added sort of, I'm trying to think of the right word, the added poignancy of...
Yeah, of course, yeah.
The Manchester derby following on from the death of Sir Bobby, of course. And it is a derby, so anything can happen. As both of us, it's weird because if you look at both City and United, when we've been dominant, we've always been able to get a result against each other. I just remember seeing City teams get a result against us when we were fine like you guys are, and vice versa. So my heart says we can get a result. I think it would. If we do it, there'll be goals. I think something like a 2-1 or a 3-2. My head says it's going to be very, very difficult. I think, like you said, you mentioned earlier about City almost having a point to prove, and you said we haven't got a point to prove, and I think you kind of have a little bit because you set the bar very high, and when you lose, it was like 3 games in a month, whatever you did. People look at it and go, "Hang on a minute."
Yeah, they did.
And then you start getting questions. So I think there is a little bit of City where they're going to go, and you're not going to want to go away to the Emirates and lose, away to Old Trafford and lose a few weeks of each other. So that worries me because I think if you're getting a bit like, "Hang on a minute, we need to remind everyone who we are," against the United team that are struggling, then I think my head says it might be one of those games where it's a bit cagey, but you City just have that sort of little bit too much for us. So my heart says 2-1 United. My head says it might just be something like a pretty drab 1-0 to City, which, would be a horrible result for us and a good one for you guys.
Yeah. Well, Jay, you're a superstar, mate. Thank you so much for coming on and braving the Burton position, I guess. Guys, you can check out Jay, of course, over on Stretford Paddock. Mate, thank you so much for your time.
Always a pleasure, bro.
Guys, thanks for watching this video. Don't forget to like, subscribe, all the usual stuff, and watch my match preview if it's out yet. I don't know if it will be, but it will be on the channel. If not, go watch the stuff from the Leipzig game. Not Leipzig, from the Young Boys game as well. God, I'm so glad we're not playing Young Boys again. I hate that name, stadium name. I hate that team. It's just a nightmare to talk around. It's horrible. Anyway, thanks for watching this video. Subscribe, like, all the usual stuff. In a bit, up the Blues. Bye-bye.